Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be watching a video that looks incredibly interesting. It's called The Entire History of Formula One, I guess. I think, because I don't really know a lot about Formula One. I know like the big famous guy, Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton and Schumacher. Like I know like a few drivers, but I don't really know, you know, like the whole how it started and stuff. I know it's pretty older than I probably would have thought, because I think this was on like I think it started in the 1950s. I want to say 1940. No, I think it was like 50s, 1940s, 1950s, but maybe it was even earlier. So it's like I'm surprised, I think, because I think that's what it is. You know, like it's gonna be like, hey, you know, this started in the 1950s, but I have no idea what compels people and humans to, you know, start the sport and be like, hey, you know, this is going to be a cool sport that people are going to enjoy, and people are going to enjoy like driving cars, you know, for sport. So I want to know, because I'm super interested to check this out and see like, okay, so how did it start? Because it looks incredibly interesting. I'm super curious to find out. So let's find out, and comment, like, subscribe, and start.
It's 1894, and the first ever motor race has just been held from the French capital of Paris to one of its neighbouring cities, Rouen. Let's set up a championship, said absolutely no one, who raced for another 56 years before finally setting up 56. Formula One.
Okay. Yeah, because it's like the modern era.
No other. With fierce competition amongst the world's elite drivers and constructors.
Yeah.
This isn't what it looked like though, because unlike today, the sport first started with small privately owned teams who produced cars with little regard for aerodynamics or human safety. Mechanical problems were common, and most accidents were fatal. In fact, at any point your car could suddenly break down, sending you to an inevitable death.
Oh my.
Surely no one's going to want to join this.
Everyone wanted to join, of course.
Wow.
Oh my god, I love the cars!
And despite the prospect of imminent death, the Formula One train was full steam ahead. A governing body was set up, now called the FIA, and 81 drivers decided to race in 1950, including this man, the first ever world champion, Nino Farina, an Italian driver driving for an Italian team.
What a surprise.
It's not Ferrari. Although it may seem crazy today, Alfa Romeo dominated the first era of Formula One alongside
that's
Ferrari.
A famous
they drove premium car designs with an engine in front of the driver and ran on a budget so small it would give Christian Horner an aneurysm. This Formula One thing is getting kind of boring, said the FIA, who introduced new regulations in 1954, which hurt the leading constructors and saw the rise of a new team from way over in Germany, who wear lederhosen and eat sausage.
Wow.
And who we're not really best friends with right now. The team was called Mercedes, who would go on to dominate 2 championships with Argentine Juan Manuel Fangio at the helm, before their run of success was put to a dramatic halt after the team's involvement in the deadliest motorsport crash in history.
Oh, okay, sad.
The 1955 Le Mans disaster saw the deaths of 84 people, including Mercedes driver Pierre Levey. And although no one was to blame for the crash, Mercedes withdrew from motorsport entirely for 34 years.
34 years? Oh my god, what? But 80 people died, of course.
Are you tired of your engine being in front of your car? Do you want a new design that gains you performance and championships? Well, try the new mid-engine design coming to a paddock near you.
Oh, of course, because the engine's like in the middle, not like
it's the late 1950s, and after the fall of Mercedes, Ferrari, and Alfa Romeo, Formula One is wide open for the taking. Oi, bruv, what's that? It's the UK, who love one thing more than tea and biscuits, and that's world domination. But this time in the motor racing world through the development of mid-engine cars, which went on to wreck the pre-war designs used by Italian teams, leading to 5 champions. Elsewhere, F1 has begun expanding overseas, with 4 new races in Canada, the USA, Mexico, and South Africa. These two have just set up their own rival teams called McLaren and Williams, and Formula One constructors need more financial support than ever before.
Here comes the money.
It got like into an investment thing. Yeah, like they needed money.
In the 1970s, Formula One started getting pretty expensive through endless crashes, regulation changes, and life insurance. But teams have just found a way around it by allowing brands to advertise their products during a race in exchange for a fee. And they would start to advertise anything that paid well. Condoms, cigarettes, musicians,
whatever pays.
Sponsorship still remains a huge part of the sport, to the point where it looks like 6ix9ine just shapeshifted onto the new RB19 chassis.
This is just like very cool. It's just like a mismatch of things.
Said Hotshot's Niki Lauda and James Hunt, becoming the 2 faces of the sport in the mid-1970s. Lauda, the face of professionalism and hard work, and Hunt, the face of cigarettes, champagne, and models.
Okay, he was like a playboy.
He was a bit of a legend. The two would give fans the closest title fight yet in 1976, with Lauda and Ferrari putting up a dramatic title defense against Hunt and McLaren. Despite Lauda almost dying in a crash at the Nürburgring,
oh yeah, he was the one that got into
the
car
last
crash
race at the Japanese Grand Prix, with Hunt clinching his first and only title in the dying laps of the race.
Only title, wow. He's been so happy.
James Hunt by just one single point.
It's the late 1970s now, and being a constructor sucks for a lot of reasons. Formula One is racing over 5 different continents, which is barely feasible for private teams. Each track controls the advertising and prize money of their individual Grand Prix, and the sports governing body, the FISA, dictate all the rules, regulations, and commercial rights. I know what to do, said Bernie Eccleston, forming the Formula One Constructors Association, which leveled the playing field going into the ground effect era, which was an era of huge change in Formula One. New technology has been introduced with the use of side pods. A Brazilian called Nelson Piquet is winning championships in both motor racing and Muay Thai kickboxing, and there are a couple of rookies in town who can only be described with one word.
What?
Greatness.
Oh. Yeah, it looks. This one's like the modern era, so like mid 70s, I think, even like 80s. This looks like the Formula One that like, we know these days.
Who started their rise in Formula One during the mid-1980s. Prost was simply sensational, winning the 1985 and 1986 championships with McLaren, and Senna had a driving style so mesmerizing that it actually made you forget that he was in a relationship with a 15-year-old at the time. McLaren believed that these two would be a great pairing, which honestly makes me question what they were smoking out of the exhaust pipes, because instead it led to a fierce rivalry with 2 championships ending in dramatic fashion in Japan.
Yeah, I was going to say, obviously everyone wants to win.
I mean, seriously, what did they expect to happen? It's 1992, and Williams have just developed a technology called active suspension. Hey, why don't we use it to dominate the grid for 2 years? Said Williams, using it to dominate the grid for 2 years, which saw Nigel Mansell and Alain Prost win back-to-back championships with the team. Heading into the 1994 season, Formula One was set for one of its most exciting years yet. Ayrton Senna moved to Williams, replacing the retiring Prost. Newcomer Michael Schumacher was given a competitive car at Benetton, and Ferrari had hopes of a rebound year, with Gerhard Berger and Jean Alesi at the wheel. Oh boy!
Okay.
What an exciting year this will be.
Yeah. What? Well, okay, what happened? It looked like great. In paper, what happened? Someone crashed.
The 1994 San Marino Grand Prix to this day remains the most devastating weekend of Formula One's history, with 2 fatalities in 2 days. A crash at Villeneuve during qualifying saw the death of Roland Ratzenberger, and on lap 7 of the race, 3-time world champion Ayrton Senna experienced a steering column failure at a speed of 192 miles an hour, which saw the Brazilian have a fatal crash at the Tamburello corner.
Oh my god, he died, and he was the guy that won, right?
Who believed that F1 cars were inherently safe despite the dramatic speed increase over the previous 8 years. And after the crash, many of the Williams personnel were investigated due to the belief that it was a mechanical failure that caused the crash.
Oh my god. They thought it was like, yeah, that they...
Let's get back to the racing now, because 1994, despite being overshadowed by the deaths of Ratzenberger and Senna, still had one of the closest title fights ever between Michael Schumacher and Damon Hill. The 2 drivers were split by nothing the whole season and arrived at the final race in Australia just 1 point apart. And this race would see the 3rd controversial ending to a championship in just 5 years, when the 2 made contact in a crash that was potentially caused by Schumacher, knowing full well it would lead to his first world title. Despite all the controversy around it, no action was taken against Schumacher, and he would never try any antics like this ever again.
Okay, so I think he got a warning. They were like, don't do this anymore.
Later, when he did the same thing to Jacques Villeneuve, he disqualified from the 1997 championship and was publicly ridiculed by the mainstream media.
Oh my god, he got disqualified. I thought they were like, okay, don't do this, and he was like, okay, I will.
7, 6, 5, 4, 3,
2000, okay.
1, happy 2000!
2000, a new millennium and a new era in Formula One. The World Championship is in the hands of McLaren and Mika Häkkinen. Michael Schumacher is hunting his first title for Ferrari and 3rd as a driver. And Formula One cars have a new soundtrack through the introduction of V10 engines.
Oh. They sound like pitchier, I think.
At this point, no driver had won more than 2 titles in a row for over 4 decades. But Ferrari and Schumacher were about to change that, winning 5 championships in a row, including 2 title battles with Mika Häkkinen and Kimi Räikkönen, and 3 years of complete supremacy. Like in 2002, where Ferrari finished the season with the same amount of points as every other team in the championship combined. Knock knock, who's there? It's an energy drink company who have just bought out Jaguar and joined the Formula 1 grid.
Let's go back to that.
Renault have a superstar in their hands, Fernando Alonso, a 22-year-old Spaniard who pulls off moves which defy the laws of physics and is ready to end Ferrari's run of 5 consecutive titles by becoming the youngest ever double world champion.
Oh wow!
I want to be great again, said McLaren, who went into the 2007 season with an all-new driver lineup and a brand new plan that would bring them championship success.
And a new car,
the plan involved signing the defending champion Alonso and an inexperienced rookie to ensure no competition in the team. What's the worst that
that's Hamilton, right? Oh, okay. Yeah, again.
Turns out McLaren made a very slight error which faltered their master plan. Because instead of signing an inexperienced rookie, they signed Lewis Hamilton, who raced like a veteran from the start, sparking a number of debates and controversies at McLaren over the season, like Spygate, when the team was fined £100 million for being in possession of confidential Ferrari documents. Ironically, it was Ferrari who went on to win that season with Kimi Räikkönen, although Hamilton would eventually win out the next year with an overtake at the last corner of the final race.
Oh my god, this is like, there's so much information to absorb.
2009, a year which shaped the landscape of Formula 1 with a new regulation change by the FIA.
Why?
Used the regulations to produce a dominant car. And that's exactly what Brawn did to perfection, which allowed them to bring title success to Jenson Button before the 3 teams with bigger budgets could catch up for the next season. It's a bird, it's a plane, no, it's Sebastian Vettel, who Red Bull gave wings in the early 2010s, which allowed the German to win 4 consecutive world titles, including 2 extremely close championship battles and 2 years of record-breaking dominance. Going into the turbo hybrid era, Prime Vettel was simply unstoppable. But the introduction of V6 hybrid power units led to a new era of dominance in Formula 1 when a constructor returned after 55 years. Mercedes were back with a vengeance, producing a car with supreme aerodynamics and phenomenal engine power, which blew out all competition for several years. Although, this meant that a conflict started between their drivers, Lewis Hamilton and Nico Rosberg, in a rivalry coined the Silver War, which saw the 2 trade championships and dominate the grid for 3 years before Rosberg's retirement in 2016. What happens next? Lewis Hamilton goes on to win 4 more titles, and the team dominate the competition until the final year of the turbo hybrid era. In 2021, Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton underwent one of the closest and most grueling championship battles in history. They were split by almost nothing the entire season. Some days Verstappen was ahead, some days Hamilton was ahead, some days they were side by side, and on one occasion, they were on top of each other.
Everyone could win. Either could go either way.
With several crashes and controversies leading up to the 2021 Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, where Max Verstappen converted pole into race victory to win his first world title in a race that was straightforward, not controversial in the slightest, and didn't cause the complete irreparable destruction of Formula 1 social media.
Okay, yeah, so everyone was like...
unrelated note, there was a change in F1's race directors going into the next season, which saw new regulations and another record be broken after Max Verstappen won 15 races in a single season to take his second title. And that pretty much brings us up to today. Have I covered every single driver and big event in Formula 1's history? No, but I tried. Shout out to Bill Works and...
Okay, yeah, this video was great, amazing. I feel actually like, obviously it's like sort of like in a jokey kind of, you know, tone, but I feel like I did actually learn a lot. What strikes me, like, there's several things that I think were quite interesting to me. Like, to begin with, I think this sport is all about, like, someone dominates for, like, there's a team or a particular driver or 2 particular drivers, but, you know, it's sort of like that they dominate for a few years. I think that's what it is, because it was like, this dominated for like 5 years, five championships straight, and then like this other guy came, or this other like team came, and you know, like they dominated. There was like this era, so it was okay. So I think it's like the whole, like, someone dominates, comes along, dominates for a few years, dips out, and then like someone else comes. So I think that's at least my takeaway. So it's like, it's okay if maybe you're not at your best form. Like, give it a few years, maybe it'll happen. Maybe not for the drivers as much, because obviously the drivers have, like, there's a timeline, but for teams, it's like maybe you're not good in this few seasons, in this like couple of years. But hey, there's hope, because maybe in 10 years, like, you'll be able to dominate. So I like the fact that it sort of like gives almost equal footing, I should say. Like, maybe like it's everyone's game. Like, I know that it can maybe feel like, no, of course, because it's like it's Mercedes that dominates, or it's Ferrari that dominates, or it's Red Bull that dominates, or it's McLaren. But it's like, no, it gives you sort of like opportunity for everyone if you like give it enough time. Like, give enough time, someone's gonna like create a great car for you, and then some driver is gonna come along and be able to like do his thing, so you're gonna be on top. So I like that. It's like, it's a few, like, again, it's like dominance for a few years on someone's part, but then someone else is gonna come along. So it's kind of also a little sad, because it makes you think like, oh well, the one that's like dominating now, it's not probably gonna be dominating in 5 years. So it's like, enjoy it while it lasts. I think it's quite fun. I think it's not just like one particular sort of like team that has dominated like throughout Formula One history, which I thought it was the case, because I think when you think about cars and you think of like, oh, famous like car teams and car brands and stuff, I would think, oh, like Ferrari is the one that like comes to mind, or Mercedes, because I think those are probably like the ones that are probably the most famous. But it's like not necessarily, and we could see like throughout the history, no, they haven't like dominated for like throughout the whole history of Formula One. It's just, again, it's been for a few seasons or a few years. I'm so surprised by a lot of things, actually. I'm like, okay, there's a lot of information to absorb, but it's so funny, and it's quite dramatic. I think also my takeaway is that this sport is extremely dramatic. It doesn't, obviously, like, you're driving like cars at insane speeds. Obviously, it's bound to, like, there's a lot of things that are bound to happen, but it's like very, very dramatic in a way that is very entertaining. Like, I can see why people enjoy this, because it's incredibly entertaining. And who wouldn't like the cars are beautiful. Like, the cars are a marvel of engineering. You're like, I can't believe that that's a car that you can actually race. And also, the thing I also have to say, love the earlier cars, like those old-timey cars. They were so beautiful. I don't know how safe they were. Clearly not very safe, because as we saw at first, at the beginning, they didn't really had any sort of safety regulations, or I think any sort of regulations. They were just like, whatever, just like go build a car and like drive. And obviously it was incredibly unsafe. He's like, they mentioned like everyone basically like everyone died. Like, a lot of people died. They didn't care. It was like, whatever, just do your thing. But the cars were beautiful. I have to say, like, those cars, gorgeous cars, they were beautiful. But I'm guessing, as I said, not very safe. And you can see like how kind of crazy it is, like how it started. You compare the car, like the earliest model of a car, of a Formula One car, to like the cars that we have these days. And it's kind of insane that in the, obviously not probably like not the 1800s, because obviously those cars are even like a car, are they even cars compared to like the cars that we have now? But just like the modern, earlier Formula One, like even just like the 1950s, when, let's say the whole thing started to be semi-regulated, and you compare that car to the car that Formula One cars now, and it's like completely out of different planets. It doesn't bear any sort of resemblance, which I think it's kind of funny. It's kind of cool. Like, you can see, when the cars actually started to resemble cars, now, and the races started to be like the races that we have these days. Obviously, stuff has changed clearly, but I think it was like around the mid-70s or 80s that this sport actually like became what it is, closer to what it is now, especially with the sponsorship thing that he mentioned. So it was, okay, I can see like maybe the modern, or it was like a modern era, or there were like several eras, but the one that we sort of like the modern one, I think started around the 1980s. But yeah, it was incredible. I think it's the one that shocked me also, like wait, what do you mean? Like the one I think was Mercedes, I want to say, that they got into this horrific car crash. He didn't really got into details like how the car crash actually went, because it was like 50 people that died, something like that. There was like a lot of people, but he didn't really said, like he didn't comment on the particulars. Obviously, it's a short video, but it's like for a car crash to like have that many fatalities, like what happened? Like, because I guess it's because it wasn't regulated, who knows, but it's insane for like that many people to have died. And it's even crazier that two things. First, that people, like drivers, still continue to drive. They were like, you know what? Yeah, well, it happens. I'm gonna continue driving, and people were like, "Oh, yeah, that happened," but I still want to be a driver. Like little kids and stuff. They were like, "No, I want to be a driver." Like that's whatever. And also that they retired for like 50 years. Like that team was like, no, we're not gonna race anymore. Even though he said it wasn't like they were guilty, like, but they maybe like they were sort of like traumatized. I think they were like this like the history is sort of like tainted. So they were like, we're not getting involved until like 50 years after the later, that they were like, well, you know what? I think enough time has happened that we're ready to like get back on track. But yeah, I love this video, even though it was quite short. I think I get the sense that I know a little more. I want more, actually. Like, it was so interesting that I know that it had to be like, obviously it's like a summary, but like the spark notes. But I kind of, okay, but give me a longer video of this, because I want to know more. And it was obviously like very informative, and also like low-key funny at the same time, which I think is great in order for you to learn. So hopefully you also learned along as and went along as I did to like learn new things. But that was it for today, and I'll see you soon. Bye.